actually a lot of research is coming out that the people that are, pushing it really hard and are like chiseled and cut and really fit, they're actually their bodies are actually really stressed because they're putting themselves under so much stress, either under eating or over exercising.
The myth is I have to give up all the food I love in order to eat healthy. And I know in deep parts of my soul that's not true, but is it true? Do I have to give up sushi to be healthy? Welcome everybody to another episode of Family That Learns Initiative. Today we are on nutrition, which I think is super important, and we're here with Alayna with Equity Eats. And today's topic is all about myth-busting nutrition. And this is super important because there are a lot of myths, and when we were having these conversations, a lot of things came up, and I was actually really surprised at some of the things that are myths. So, Alayna, would you like to introduce yourself and let people know who you are, and go talk about Equity Eats.
So thank you, Jacobsen. Yeah. My name is Alayna Hutchinson, and I am a registered dietitian. So that means I went to school to study nutrition. I passed an exam, and I worked for a year clinically in a hospital as a dietitian. Now more recently, I'm working for a company that's looking a lot more at preventative health, so how to fuel your body, get nutrition in, take care of yourself before any sort of disease sets in. So I work with a lot of patients and clients throughout the day. But in addition to that, my friend Emily and I are very passionate about working with people in the community that might not have access to nutrition on a regular basis. So sometimes health insurance doesn't cover nutrition. There's a lot of information on the internet that you can find easily, but it's not always the most accurate. So we're really excited to kind of work with different groups throughout the community to bring nutrition information that's valuable that you may not be able to find otherwise. So that's why we started Equity Eats. I'm really excited to work with Jacobsen, who's doing something similar with cooking and food. So yeah, that's kind of where we're coming from, is just getting nutrition information out there and helping people that are curious about how they can kind of feel better on the day-to-day.
Perfect. So today we're talking about myth busting. I think it's super important that people have correct information because I think a lot of myths is kind of like passed down generationally or kind of all about hearsay, and I think it's super important that like when people understand what are like truths about nutrition and what are some myths and what are even some of the gray areas, this information is super important. So kind of tell us a little bit of an overview. What are we going to be learning today? And then let's get into the first topic.
Yeah, awesome. So myth busting, you've heard that term a lot. What does myth busting mean? So it's really taking these things that we've heard every single day, whether you read it online or your mom's been telling it to you forever, these myths about nutrition, and kind of breaking them down and seeing if there's any real truth to them. So some of the biggest topics we'll talk about today is, for example, what is healthy eating? You've probably heard healthy eating all over the place, but really what does that mean and how can we absorb that for ourselves? Other things like calorie counting. Is that the only way to be healthy? Is it the only way to lose weight? Some of these myths that we've just heard all over the place. I think those are a couple of the big ones, but I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. So let's go into it. What is, I guess, we're talking about healthy eating or a healthy eating habit. What do you think is what do you feel is a myth, and what do you think is like really truth?
Yes, great way to start it off. So a lot of people think, and we see on Instagram and on the internet, that healthy eating is green juice and vegetables and maybe some chicken breast. These kind of this idea of like a very specific thing that means healthy eating with low calorie, lots of vegetables and like lean proteins. And really, that's a very narrow way to think about healthy eating. So the way that I like to think about healthy eating and talk to everyone, that spreading my information to anyone that I talk to, is really getting the nutrients into your body that it needs to feel good and also work properly.
Yeah.
And so that's really balancing out your nutrients. So macronutrients, micronutrients, which we'll get into, a little bit as we get more into the nutrition component, but just getting all of these nutrients into your body, and that can be through many different types of meals. So, if you grew up eating, traditional Mexican cuisine, you can reach all of those nutrients with that kind of meal. Similarly, if you eat, if you eat a lot of Indian food every day, you can get all of those nutrients in the meal. So you can get all the nutrients with a lot of different types of food, but it's just the balance of it. So getting the certain balance in each meal.
Perfect. So what is an easy process to getting to know your body when it comes to like eating healthy?
Really good question. So that's going to be the biggest trick. So when it comes to eating healthy, feeling good, nothing you read on the internet, nothing that read in a book or you see on Instagram that someone else is doing is going to tell you what works for yourself. Yeah. So the biggest thing is starting to understand, one, how you're feeling day to day, but also what you're doing, what you're putting into your body with food, or how you're moving your body, what makes you feel good. So I think the first step into longevity and eating healthy for the long term or feeling good long term is really starting to tune into your daily kind of body emotions, what's going on inside your body. So that's simple things like checking in, what are my energy levels like today? I just ate something and now I'm feeling kind of like upset stomach. Like just starting to be aware of those things inside your own body and keeping note of them. And, maybe jotting down, sleepy Tuesday, the 22nd, I felt pretty sleepy. And then just starting to be aware of those things. Yeah. And over time, that will build up to start to understand what makes you feel good and what doesn't make you feel so good.
For sure. And I think, journaling is actually super important when diagnosing everything, because I don't think anyone really puts in mind of like how much of anything you eat, especially if you're busy and you're just like eating. I think when I worked in a restaurant is when I weighed the heaviest, is because I was just unconsciously just eating anything that was in front of me, tasting things. And at the end of the day, I was like, man, I just don't feel good. And like, I was either bloated or, it was just like I was lethargic and I'm just like, didn't want to do anything outside of work. So I think definitely, understanding what you put into your body and like just taking a mental note and being present is super important.
Totally, yeah. And that's a good point too. Sometimes we don't think that it's the food that's making us feel bad, but really coming back to the basics, what you're putting into your body has a big impact on how you're going to feel every single day.
For sure. And then at what point do you feel like we should turn to a specialist versus trying to self-diagnose ourselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I like to say, if you're feeling that something is really starting to intervene with your day-to-day, so, if you have indigestion one day and you're like, this is crappy, and it goes away, maybe that's something that was just an outlier. But if, every single day and you're starting to interfere with how you're like going to work or, interacting with other people, if you start like that feeling of negativity in your body somehow is interfering with your day to day, I'd say that's when it's time to kind of get a second opinion and check in on that.
For sure. Perfect. One of the biggest myths that I'm trying to bust is being skinny equate to healthy, and is being fat equating to unhealthy? Because I think that's one of the biggest things I'm seeing on social media. A really good big component was like seeing on Lizzo was talking about like, I'm big, but I'm also healthy and I work out and everything like that. So like, is that true? Is like being big or being fat or being large or plus size or fluffy equate to being unhealthy, and is being skinny and ripped equate to being healthy?
Really good question. And I actually love this question because it's one of the most infiltrating myths in our society, in the globe almost, but really in the American society, because over time we've come to really value this certain body shape. And actually there's not a lot of truth to being, body size equating to health. And actually, which is really interesting, in my work, I do blood samples. So I take people's blood, I analyze the biomarkers, we call them, to see kind of a really quantitative level of health. So what is your blood saying about your health? That's kind of indisputable because it's not based on how you're looking on the outside. And really in any body size, whether you're, even underweight to all the way overweight, you could be healthy physiologically. You could have healthy biomarkers. A lot comes into play with body size. So it could be genetics. It can be, just different things that make someone in a different body size. So you can be really healthy in a larger body, you can be really healthy in a smaller body, but one does not equal the other. And actually a lot of research is coming out that the people that are, pushing it really hard and are like chiseled and cut and really fit, they're actually their bodies are actually really stressed because they're putting themselves under so much stress, either under eating or over exercising. And that actually isn't that great for you, it turns out, especially for like living longer and feeling good. So I think that when it comes down to it, body size is just one thing to consider, and it actually doesn't define your health overall at all. Oh,
that's good to know, because I think that's one of the things I've always battled is like self-image issues, especially as a young person, is like saying like, well, like I work out, I was an athlete in high school and in college, and like I worked out, I was still, I had the plus size everything, but I was like, man, well, am I unhealthy? And like, funny enough, my doctor never said like you were like, oh, you're in danger or anything like that. They just said like, you're just a big person. I'm also Hawaiian and black, so it's like I'm like two very genetically big people.
Totally.
So I get it. So one of the big myths that I want to talk about was calorie counting, because I've done the actual math that they put online and everything like that, and it's like for a person my size, it's like 3,600 calories a day. And like to eat healthy and eat that many calories, I couldn't do it. Like I felt like it was super hard. So tell me what's like the myths about calorie counting. Does it really matter, or should it matter, or does it matter a little bit? Tell me what your thoughts on that is.
Totally. Really good question. Probably one of the biggest myths that people come to me as a dietitian with when they're looking at kind of their diet, because so starting off with just a little bit of science. What a calorie really is, it's a measure of energy. So it's how much, if you have something that is 100 calories, that means that food, if it was put into a machine and combusted, it could raise a degree of 100 degrees. So the 100 calories equates to 100 degrees raised of that energy production. So when you think about that, it really breaks it down into, okay, it's just a form of energy. So calories themselves are, when it comes to food, are not as simple as it sounds. So something could be 100 calories and it could be what I call very nutrient dense. So it has a ton of nutrients in it in terms of vitamins and minerals and things that are really nourishing for your body. And you could have something that's 100 calories and it basically is sugar or something. It's going to just break down to sugar. It's not going to give you any nutrients. So that's kind of where calories gets complicated, because if you're trying to hit a certain calorie number and you're only looking at that number and not the nutrients in it, the fat, the carbs, the protein, all of these things that are really important for your health and for feeling good, then you're losing a lot of that. You're not really fueling your body. You're just looking at this kind of arbitrary number of energy. But also, that being said, when it comes to calories, the other thing that you've kind of touched on is that people think they need to decrease calories to lose weight. That the only way you're going to lose weight is to decrease calories. So when you bring up that your body needs, 3,000 calories because it's really active and you're burning a lot through the day, you're moving around. If you were to really under-eat and try and, fit, 1,500 calories or even 2,000 calories for you, what you're doing is you're telling your body that you're not getting enough energy. So you're actually, it's going to slow down your metabolism. So your body's going to think it's not getting enough energy. We got to restrict everything. We got to hold on to all of the energy we have, and it slows down all the processes in your body.
So metabolism, because that's something that we've been learning through the Family That Learns initiative, is like metabolism is super important because that's what regulates, just how you eat and everything. So like when we're sitting there and trying to decrease dramatically our calories, you're affecting our metabolism, which then it gets you that burnout that I think everybody feels when they're trying to lose weight, is like, oh my gosh, I've eaten nothing but strawberries and salads and drank water and nothing is happening. And that's that burnout we're feeling.
Totally. So what happens when you do a diet like that, let's say you were to restrict your calories really hard for like a month, you are going to lose a little bit of weight, but then your body is going to adapt and it's going to slow everything down. So slow down your metabolism, And then you're going to hit up that burnout. So you're like, I'm not losing any weight. And that's because your body has slowed down to match those calories.
Yep.
So what happens is as soon as you eat anything above that, back to normal, fueling your body normally, then you're going to put on more weight because your body thinks that you're in starvation. So as soon as you put anything extra, we've got to hold on to it because we're in starvation.
Never know when it's going to happen again.
Exactly. So that's why really the goal, really what I say when it comes to metabolism is you want to be able to actually eat more, and that means your metabolism's speeding up and you're fueling yourself necessarily. So that's kind of the goal. Eat more and your body's using all that fuel rather than storing it.
Perfect. This is actually super important to me because, you know, everyone talks about fruits and vegetables being super good for you, but is that true, or is that like kind of a gray area?
Good question. So it is true. Fruits and vegetables are very, like I said before, it's called nutrient dense, which means for the amount of calories that it has, so the energy that it provides you has a lot of nutrients packed into it. So fruits and vegetables have a lot of vitamins and minerals and fiber, and so they give you a lot of those nutrients that you need. However, they don't have a lot of really important nutrients also. So they don't have usually a lot of fats in them, which fats are essential for feeling good and fueling your body. They often don't have much protein in them. While they are a really healthy part of day-to-day and important for a lot of things and a lot of healthy behaviors, they're not the only thing that's important in your diet. So they're just kind of a part of that puzzle piece, or a puzzle piece in the whole puzzle.
Oh, love it, love it. So we're talking about diets. So like there are some diets that I feel that a lot of people feel is the new fad or the new thing. One of them is like keto, which is like super high fat, low carb. Like people are saying this has changed their lives. And I've seen the results, and it's like, for me, I'm like, oh man, that sounds amazing. All I eat is bacon and cheese and butter in my coffee. And I'm like, is there any danger to that? Or I feel like it just, something feels wrong in my heart and my soul and my spirit. But is it like, what do you think?
Yes, so keto, definitely very popular right now. And just to kind of break it down for, you know, so everyone knows really what keto is. So keto, it's short term for ketogenesis. So it's a diet that essentially makes your body, transforms the metabolism in your body so that you're only burning fat. So you're cutting out pretty much all carbohydrates from your diet and you're only eating fat. And to truly be in ketosis for your body, you can only have about 5 grams of 5 grams of carbs a day. And that's equal to like less than an apple. It's so few carbs to be true ketosis, to really get those effects that the science is saying is for you. So that's really, you're basically cutting out an entire food group to get into this state. And so the keto diet was really originally created for babies that had epilepsy. So it's really the only group of people that it's truly been proven to be beneficial to is epileptic babies, which is very interesting. And it is very beneficial if you are, you know, an underweight, small epileptic baby. But for adults, we actually need carbohydrates to survive. So our brains, the only fuel that our brains can use is glucose, is carbohydrates. And you actually need 130 grams of carbohydrates a day for proper brain function. So when you're doing a diet like ketosis and you're cutting out this really whole group food groups, so that have a lot of those nutrients in them, you're missing out. Not only are you not giving your brain what it needs to feel good, but you're also losing a ton of nutrients. So that's one side of it.
Yeah.
The other side, you said dangerous. When you are eating a diet that's really high fat, and to get all of that fat in the diet, to get enough calories and energy that you need each day, and only eating fat, you have to eat large amounts of fat, if you can imagine. So that's why you're talking about the bacon and the eggs and the cheese. And so eating that much fat actually is putting a lot of stress on your body. So you're getting into a lot of fat, then that can cause things negatively like high cholesterol or, you know, fat buildup in your bloodstream and some negative effects down the line.
Oh, goodness.
So, well, you may see some weight loss in the short term. Long term, it can lead to things like cardiovascular disease or, you know, fatty buildup in your bloodstream, like I'm saying. So I personally don't recommend keto to anyone unless you are an epileptic baby, because you are missing out a lot of nutrients in the diet. So I think if you are considering something like that, I really encourage you to deep dive into where it came from and what ketogenesis really is in the body.
Okay, so another diet that I really want to talk about is, and I've tried it personally and I feel like it has not worked for me, is veganism, where you're taking away animal proteins out of your diet. As a diet that is something that we're, I guess the best phrase is, if you wanted to use a diet to eliminate protein, is there any myths that we should be worried about? Is there any things that we should be focusing on if we are on that diet that we should talk about?
Yeah, really good question. So if anyone has, a diet that they feel works really well for them, and that includes the keto diet too, I like to support anyone's decision to follow a certain eating pattern. So if you want to go vegan or vegetarian, or that's something you've done forever, more power to you. Yeah. I think it's eating more plant foods is better for the environment. Yep. But you can get a lot of nutrients in, but you have to also be aware that you're cutting out whole food groups that our body does need those nutrients. Yeah. So when it comes to something like a vegan diet, you're obviously not getting animal proteins or any animal sources either. So that includes dairy, butter, milk, cheese, any sort of animal meat. So you're missing out on a lot of key vitamins and some minerals if you are choosing to only eat foods that come from plant sources. So in that sense, it's really important to seek out other sources of that, usually through supplementation.
Perfect.
So a good example is B12. So B12 vitamin you can only get from animal proteins and animal sources. So if you are following a vegan diet, it's really important to supplement with a B12, because it's a nutrient that's really important for your body. And if you're deficient in it and you're not getting enough in the diet, you can feel lethargic, you're not producing enough energy, a lot of different things can happen. So that's one nutrient, but there's a few more when it comes to veganism. Do you want to go through a couple more?
What other nutrients that I think, because I think not a lot of people understand the concept, and even if you are a vegan, and I 100% support people who decide hey, I just can't eat an animal, I get it, but I think when it comes to making sure that you're healthy, you need to know some deficiencies that may happen, and understand at least the science behind it.
Totally.
Because ethically in science, sometimes they have to use them both.
Yep. Yeah, so it's a really good point. And the thing about plants versus animals also is that your body doesn't absorb the nutrients from plants quite as well. So there's this term bioavailability, which is kind of this big term, but it basically means how well does your body absorb those nutrients. So for example, a good source of plant protein, a lot of people have talked about, say, beans. So beans are a good source of plant protein. However, it's harder for the body to absorb that protein from beans, say, from a piece of chicken. So the protein in chicken's a lot more bioavailable. Beans, it's a little bit trickier for the body to absorb. So you have to kind of eat a little bit more of it, or you can combine different sources of vegan or vegetarian proteins together. A common one is rice and beans. So if you're eating rice and beans together, you're getting all the proteins you need from that combination that you would get from, say, eating a piece of chicken. So just being really conscientious of what nutrients you're missing out on, and also that your body may not be absorbing them quite as well if they're from plant sources.
Perfect. So I think you're 100% right when it comes to deficiencies, knowing the science. But what about some physical signs that we can see when we are deficient or anything like that? Is there anything that we should be looking out for?
Definitely, yes. So, but I talked a little bit about energy and kind of noticing your energy levels. But there's some other things that you can notice, more physically if you are experiencing some deficiencies. So some things to look out for in parts of your body to keep a track of is your skin. So, is your skin feeling hydrated? Is it feeling really dry? That could be a sign of hydration, or if you're getting enough fats in the diet. So if you're not getting enough fat, or if you're dehydrated, your skin could be really dry. One way to check for it, you can check your skin tenting. So if you go like this, you can see how fast your skin rebounds. If it stays kind of stuck in a tent formation, that could be dehydration.
Okay.
So that's one thing. Also looking at your fingernails. So your fingernails can be really telling of if you're getting enough nutrients in the diet. Big one is iron deficiency. So if you're not getting enough iron in the diet, which is actually pretty common, your nails could be really brittle. You could also be a little bit pale. So looking at your skin color and your skin tone. And then hair is a big one.
Okay.
So looking at your hair, is your hair thinning? Is it really brittle? So this could show us, if your hair is really thin, kind of falling out, you might not be getting enough protein in the diet.
Oh, okay.
If it's really brittle, you could be missing some key nutrients. So some B vitamins in there. Vitamin C is really important for hair health as well. So just keeping an eye on if you're seeing any specific changes in your skin, your hair, your nails, your taste, even if your taste is feeling off, just start recognizing if those things are feeling different. You could be experiencing some vitamin and mineral deficiencies.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's not just feeling things, but also how you are physically. I think that's super important. Yeah. So the next one I think is the most important one to me personally, the most important myth. The myth is I have to give up all the food I love in order to eat healthy. And I know in the deep parts of my soul that's not true, but everybody says these things online. So tell me, is it true? Do I have to give up sushi to be healthy?
So great question. And no, you don't have to give up everything you love to be healthy. The biggest thing, I think, kind of a common theme throughout this whole conversation is that of balance. And so you want to get that balance of nutrients in the diet, but also, eating is something that is really important to social, like having fun with your friends and your family and part of our socialization. So mental health is just as important for the body and your overall health as the food you're putting in your body. So if you love sushi, I'd say, find a way to have sushi on a, when it fits in. Don't have it maybe every single night of every single week, because then you're missing out on some of those nutrients. But, once a week, you're getting some healthy fats from the fish. You're getting some good carbs from the rice. I think it's just being mindful. And I'm sure, you know when you're kind of overdoing something. You don't want to admit it, but you know when you're overdoing it. So I would say if you're depriving yourself, that's going to be just as bad as overdoing something.
Yeah. I think that was one of the big things that I witnessed when I was younger is like when mom took away the sugar or took away, honestly, just like the Spam, I would somehow find a way to get it. So if it was more of a situation of like trying to create balance, I think that's really been the key for my own self is being able to have like, oh, I'm going to have a burger, but I'm also going to have a salad.
Totally.
And like throw some vegetables in there. Not always going to be the fries. So the good with the bad, the yin with the yang. I like it.
Yeah, and also just bringing up a good point is paying attention to what you're craving. And also, is it true hunger, or are you craving, that the greasy fries because you had a really stressful day and that kind of feels comforting. So starting to recognize, why you're craving certain foods or when you're craving certain foods, and is it true hunger? Is your body trying to tell you something, or is it more related to, something stressful that happened or some more emotional eating related to that?
Yeah, I think that's going to be an amazing video. We should definitely do a talk and a conversation about food addictions, because that has been something that I have struggled in my younger years. Is I was like, I literally blew up because I actually asked a friend. It was like, hey, can you be like my accountability partner? And I literally yelled at him because it was like he tried to take away my rice, and I was like, it's like, dude, I need my rice, and I lost it. And I think that's something that like. Is it really a situation of your body is craving it, or is it you're just used to eating this way? And I think that's a big struggle.
Totally. And is it serving a purpose beyond just food, just like fueling your body? Is it serving you a purpose of, an emotional purpose? It's comforting, it feels safe for you. So food is a lot more complicated than just like good and bad. But it's just really starting to recognize in yourself when things happen, when you're craving things, and what kind of keeping note of it in the bigger picture of your eating. Yeah.
Love it. All right, guys. So that is going to be it for our Family That Learns initiative. Alayna, if people wanted to get a hold of you and ask you more questions, we will have an opportunity to have comments down below. So we'll answer those comments. But how can people get more connected with you?
Great question. So we are in the process. We have a website that's going to be coming out really soon. We don't have a social media yet, but I will make sure Jacobsen has our website information, so you can email us and contact us through that. And we'd love to hear from everyone and anyone.
Perfect. And if you felt this was something super important to you and you loved the content, please make sure you like, share, subscribe, and also let someone know about these classes, because they can very well be understanding or doing the bad parts of these myths and also kind of going down a path that could eventually hurt them. You never know. So if this is valuable to you, please share with your friend. Thank you so much, Alayna, for being here. And make sure you put a thumbs up, and see you in the next class. Bye.